Well, the brook dries up. Of course, all good things come to an end. And God says, go to Zarephath. I've got a widow woman there. Oh boy. Transition just never ends, does it? Elijah's at a brook, a place of uncommon provision. Now he goes to a depleted barrel. He's found a dried up brook. Now he goes to a barrel. The barrel represents uncommon pressure. That woman and her son were under uncommon pressure. Anybody in your transition under some uncommon pressure? Oh yeah, I've been under pressure, but none like this. You just get exasperated and you get tired because of the uncommon pressure. And Elijah shows up and wants to know what she's doing. And she says, I'm going to gather some sticks. I've got enough to make my son and I a cake. And then we're going to die. She prophesied her future. And he says, make me a little cake first. Now she's under pressure already. Now you got a prophet standing in front of you saying, give me what you were going to get for yourself first. And when he said first, it obviously meant there was going to be a second. But I'm not sure she picked up on that. I wouldn't have picked up on it. But he said, give me a cake first. Now this woman has the responsibility of a son. She's a widow, required special care and special attention under the rules of that day. But here she's confronted with a man of God who says, make me a cake first. Uncommon pressure. I don't know how I'm going to get out from under this pressure. Some of you tonight are sitting here thinking, I don't even know if I should go to church tonight. I've got so much pressure. I ought to just go to bed. How many of you, without raising your hand this time, because cameras are rolling, baby, we got you on record. You've been so discouraged and despondent that every spare moment you'd like to just take a nap. You just want to go to sleep. You just want to close your eyes. You just want to get away from it all, because at least it's a moment of relief from the pressure, and you don't know if you can make it another day or not unless you get some sleep. But you sleep and you don't get rest, and you wake up the next morning. Transition is staring in the face. Uncommon pressure is staring in the face. But someday, some way, somehow, you got to say, I'm bigger than this pressure. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I'm not going to be beaten by this uncommon pressure. If God be for me, who can stand against me? I'm getting through this transition. Now I know Tuesday nights you ought not sweat this much, but this is Sunday for me. But please understand, Elijah must have had a gamut of feelings hit him when he hears the woman say, we're going to make a cake and die. I don't know that she knew he was the reason it was dry. I don't know if she knew that. I got the feeling that she probably didn't pull that together. Had she pulled it together, she might would have said, bring rain, I'll get you cake. Let's negotiate. Anybody in transition try to negotiate? Oops, I'll get away from that. But you see, the brook was Elijah's test. The barrel is the widow's test. Not only in your transition will you have uncommon pressure, but you will meet people who have uncommon pressure. And you'll wonder, if I'm hanging out with people who are like me, how is God going to ever get any supply to me? Oh, at this point, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or a prophet to read this crowd. Uncommon pressure. But in the midst of her pressure, she makes an uncommon decision. I'll do what he says, because something in me believes that something in him is telling me the right thing to do. I've sat in services before when preachers asked me to give, and I thought, if you knew what I have left, you wouldn't be asking for me to give. You'd be asking somebody to reach over and just bless him a $5. But there have been days when we had on our best clothes and sat in the best church and did all that we could, and we realized the moment in time was passing. One thing in transition, if you hear me preach about it much, you're going to find this to be true. You have to remain alert. You cannot slumber or sleep during transition, or your exit moment will pass you by and you will be in a prolonged season that could have ended. Israel could have got out of the wilderness in a short amount of time, but they grumbled, they murmured, they complained, and their transition from Egypt to Canaan was a lot longer than it should have been. So you can shorten a season of transition by staying alert and hearing the voice of God. I have to move on. I know you've heard, it's probably okay to say this tonight because nobody will ever look at these DVDs. You've heard it say, some days you're the fire plug, and some days you're the dog. Now, if you tell anybody I said that, I'll deny it. So before I move to my next point, where are you? You could be helping me here. You're just going to let me die by myself. Some days you're Elijah, and some days you're the widow. But can I tell you, transition is not abiding. Transition is sojourning. Transition is not here to stay. It came to pass. Now, next, Elijah has gone to the dry brook. Now he's at the depleted barrel. And last of all, he's facing a dead boy. The dry brook represented some uncommon provision. The depleted barrel represented some uncommon pressure. The dead boy provides an opportunity for uncommon miracles. Places you didn't know you'd go, things that you think you can't do in transition, God will anoint you to do. Because you see, there didn't seem to be any anointing at the brook. And it dried up. He was solely dependent on the Lord. There was a little bit of an anointing there before the widow when he said, make me a cake first. But nothing extremely profound. But God has processed him from live to move. And when the boy dies, now he's got to have being. He's got to have life. He's got to have a miracle. Now, a man that prophesied drought, God's honored it. He's not seen rain for almost 3 years. He's gone through a brook drying up and a widow woman feeding him, and he's just ready to get out of Dodge because no sign of this transition letting up, and her boy dies, and she says, where is he? And he lays himself on that boy. Some of you in the midst of your transition will have an opportunity for God to touch you for an uncommon miracle that will trigger your exit from your transition. And if you're not open to God using you at a moment of uncommon pressure in your own life, when you're fighting for your own survival, if you're not open for God using you to liberate somebody else, you may stay in your transition a lot longer. But be keenly aware that no matter what pressure you're facing today, and no matter what's dried up and what's not happening in you, there are those around you that need the anointing that God is wrapping around you for the next assignment. Elijah didn't know it at the time, but as he lay on that dead boy, he was one prayer away from his next assignment. Transition was about over, and he was about ready to move out of transition. He gives the boy back to the woman. And then God says, go show yourself. Oh my goodness. You're in your heart, you're going, yes, that's what I'm waiting on. Go show myself. I'm ready to go show myself. I'm ready for my next assignment. But you got to understand, Elijah's been through 3 years of Brook, Barrell, and boy. He don't look like showing himself. He don't feel like showing himself. But God says, go back where you started. Go find Ahab. Go find him. Can I tell you tonight, I can't go on because time is slipping away. But I can tell you, out of Elijah's lowest point, God says, go show yourself to Ahab. It took God 3 years to process him to get ready for one sermon. 3 years for one sermon. And if I have a week off, I think I'm going to die. 3